Do keto pills work for weight loss? Do keto shakes work? It really depends on what you mean by work. When you eat powdered ketone bodies, it will throw you into ketosis, but that is not the same as losing weight. People get confused, so I'm going to teach you the difference. The keto diet is an extremely low carbohydrate diet, and that is why it tends to work for weight loss, because you cut your carbohydrates way down, you're eating fewer calories, you're getting a much lower insulin response from a very low carbohydrate intake. So that's why you lose weight. One of the side effects of a very, very low carbohydrate diet is your body starts to produce these things called ketone bodies. And your body can use ketones as an alternative source of fuel when it doesn't have enough carbohydrate to run on. I don't want to get too nerdy with physiology, but basically what happens is when you burn body fat for fuel, part of that cycle requires carbohydrate. And when you do that, everything happens as normal. When you don't have enough carbohydrate to burn the body fat completely, one of the byproducts are these things called ketone bodies. So some of your cells can use ketones for energy instead of carbohydrate. And that works okay, especially your brain. It's actually pretty good for your brain. So as a concept, the keto diet is not necessarily inherently unhealthy for you, because we're very flexible creatures when it comes to what we can eat and how we can produce energy. It's not a very sustainable plan for most people. So, keeping yourself down to only 5 or 10% carbohydrate intake is a very, very difficult nutrition path. So we'll talk about that a little bit later. But the idea is that you get into ketosis because your diet contains such a tiny amount of carbohydrates. So that's the genesis of it. Your weight loss, when you go on this keto diet, comes from eating fewer carbohydrates. Your insulin levels are lower, your blood sugar stays lower, your total calories are probably lower because you're not eating as many carbs. So that's why you lose weight. If you are using keto pills or keto shakes in order to try to lose weight, if you don't cut your carbohydrates down, you've got it backwards in your head. Ketosis does not cause weight loss. Ketosis comes from very, very low carbohydrate eating. There are some pros and cons to the ketosis diet. On the pros side, I made a little list here, excuse me while I glance at my notes. These keto drinks can help reduce your appetite. When you have ketone bodies floating around in your body, you tend to not want to eat as much, so it makes it easier to eat less. So that's a plus. And as I mentioned before, the research is showing that ketones are actually very good for your brain. It enhances mental clarity. It's good for the actual brain tissue. So ketosis is pretty good for your brain. There are a lot of troubling side effects, though, that I do want to talk to you about. The downsides of some of the keto drinks are, number one, they do have calories. They have about as many calories as carbohydrates and protein, about 4 calories per gram. So if you're drinking a bunch of the ketone salts, then you're actually adding calories to your diet. Secondly, because most of these pills and shakes are actually made from ketone salts, there's a lot of sodium in them. And high sodium intake is very bad for your blood pressure. Ketosis can be extremely dangerous for people who are diabetic and people who have liver or kidney problems. So this is definitely a no-no if you fall into any of those categories. And lastly, and probably most importantly, if you're watching this video about using keto pills for weight loss, having high levels of what are called, this is boring, exogenous ketones, meaning you're eating extra ketones instead of producing them naturally. Having high level of those has actually been shown to inhibit fat burning. So you're eating extra ketones, you're eating extra calories, you are reducing your ability to burn fat. So those are really not good things. I want to do a recap of this real quick, just in case you're like me and you sort of fast forward to the end of the video to get the recap. So here you go. If you want to skip all the boring parts and just get to the get to the bullet points. Bullet point number 1: ketosis does not cause weight loss. Ketosis is the result of a very, very low carbohydrate diet. So if you think that if you get into ketosis, then you're going to lose weight, you've got it backwards. You get into ketosis because you have lowered your carbohydrate intake so much. And it's probably the lower carbohydrate and calorie intake that is going to cause the weight loss. There are a couple pros and cons to eating extra ketone bodies. The pros are it may reduce your appetite a little bit and it's pretty good for your brain. The cons are it's very, very bad for you if you're diabetic or if you have any liver or kidney problems. It actually shuts down, actually shuts down is too strong of a term. It inhibits some of your fat burning potential when you have a lot of ketone bodies floating around in your bloodstream. It's a fuel, so your body will burn up the ketones that you're eating. There's a lot of salt in the keto shakes and pills. They're generally made of keto salts, so there's a lot of sodium in there, and that's really not good for you either. If you are trying to find the magic pill or the magic shake that is going to allow you to eat like you've been eating that causes you to gain weight, and you're hoping that there's this magic pill or magic shake that's going to just melt the fat away and allow you to keep eating the way you've been eating, big surprise.